Hi, my name is Cecile Johnson. I'm CEO of African Development Plan, and I'm here today as part of Global City Unity's community outreach to keep you informed about issues affecting the global Black community. Issues that require your involvement, your understanding, and your cooperation for us to be on one accord to find solutions. Today, my guest is my dear friend Paula Green, co-founder and president of the All People Foundation and co-founder, along with me, of the International Center for Economic Research and Development. Otherwise, we call this the Power Center, right? So, Paula, welcome, 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 welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Sam, it's a pleasure to have you. Today's focus is going to be on the Power Center, what it is, why it's needed, how we got started, how you can help. And before you get into it, I want to ask a little bit about your background and all of that. I want to quote Dr. Claude Anderson. Dr. Claude Anderson says in 1860, 99% of all Black people worked for whites. Today, 98% of all Black people work for whites, and you are enjoying a social illusion because you think you go to someone else's restaurant, but you don't own the restaurant yourself, right? So he says there are 5 steps to acquiring power in a community. The first step is economic, second is political, third is legal, fourth is media, and fifth is education. So, first step is economics. So what we're going to be doing today is, in a capitalist system, he who controls the money controls the power. Dr. Anderson likes to say, he who controls the money controls the power. He buys, sells, rents, and leases the politicians. And when we look at what's going on around us, that's exactly what it is. So today we're going to talk about the Power Center, the International Center for Economic Research and Development, why it was formed, how it got started, because it's really in response to this. Us trying to take care of that first level on the structure of the power, of how to build power in your community by dealing with economics. So, Paula, tell us a little bit about yourself, what got you started in all of this.
Yeah, I sort of got conscripted by God, so to speak. As a child growing up, I always questioned everything around me. And maybe it was the Catholic upbringing that kind of fostered the thought of ask and you shall receive. You know, you receive not because you ask not, something to that extent, and I'm sure I'm probably chopping it up. And so my entire life has been about trying to be part of the solution to things, helping all of us in our community, myself, my family, extended family, the community, grow and develop. Even as a child, I kind of thought, the way I thought about poverty was sort of like, I always thought of it as a sin. Like there was something wrong with a lot of poverty because I didn't think it had to be that way.
Okay.
You know, we're given an earth with everything that we need in order to live in abundance. So the concept of poverty for me early on was sort of some sort of injustice. And so when I came to Chicago in 2004, I saw the conditions around and I had to get involved. I have extended family members that live here in Chicago, lived and still continue to live here. My niece and my nephew live in Inglewood, and so it behooved me to take responsibility for some of the changes I saw and continue to see as necessary in our community for the evolution, the healthy evolution of our community. When I speak to my nephew, and he says to me, Aunt, you know, I really want a summer job, but there are no summer jobs available. That's a challenge.
Right.
And that is a challenge that I, as an individual, and my organization, the All People Foundation, I'm the president and co-founder of the All People Foundation, was developed here in Chicago in 2012. And we now have a branch in Belize. Okay. I'm of Belizean descent, of course. And so I and Rodney Nunez, my co-founder, saw that a lot of the challenges that are being experienced here, not only in Chicago, I grew up in New York and in LA. I mean, when the whole gang thing with the Crips and the Bloods got started in the 70s, it started in the 60s, but in the height of the 70s, it was really beginning to take hold in the community. I was at that pivotal point. I was in LA at that point as a teenager, and so I come from a unique position of being able to have a world view. In Belize, the conditions with Black people are the same. in Jamaica, you're from Jamaica, so the Caribbean, Central America, the United States, the same problems that I saw in New York, in Los Angeles, in Detroit, I see in Chicago. So I began to become aware that there was some kind of just an intuition that there were some key drivers of underdevelopment and dysfunction in our community. Poverty was one, the education was second. And so that's how I come to this work,
Okay.
in a nutshell.
I think we all come a little bit like that, but especially those of us who come from another country to come and see the same parallels, right? And a lot of
Absolutely.
times it's based on race, right? So even though we may live in so-called black countries, we always see immense poverty amongst the black people, and we always see people of other races who really run things as far as the economics. So on the Power Center proposal, we have here, it says, local businesses are key drivers of successful socioeconomic development in a capitalist system. In order to apply financial resources in the black community successfully, we must understand the framework of underdevelopment and the key drivers of success. The Power Center is a central hub focused on socioeconomic research and design that will meet the need for sustainable development of the black community by providing financial and small business development resources, right? So, when we designed this, as I say we because we are co-founders, we had looked at the current challenges, right? Reversing existing socioeconomic disparities, creating jobs, securing investment. When you say your nephew was looking for a job, we have a 92% black youth unemployment rate, right? And we have an 83% black youth unemployment rate nationally, right? So when you talk about the global issue, that's the reality. And we saw that there was a lot of interconnection, right? So tell us a little bit more about that, how we saw it tying into health and education and all of that. What are the current challenges and what stimulated this?
Like I said before, poverty is at the base. Though it's not the only key driver of dysfunction or underdevelopment in our community, poverty is a key driver of that because it impacts everything that you do. Our inability or inaccess to resources impact the way that we can raise our children, what we can expose them to.
Right.
The education system, the social system, justice. Justice is tied in the United States. Justice is tied to he who has the money, he who has the goal, he makes the rules.
Right.
And so as a community that is enwashed in poverty, it's difficult for us to move beyond what we know as what our challenges are. That is the reason that we came. This is how the Community Power Center came into focus. You and I worked together, Cecile, on the National Black Agenda. And in order to kind of establish what that agenda would look like, the depth and the scope of that agenda, we needed to get a better understanding of the key variables in our community that's promoting either directly or indirectly underdevelopment in our community. Why there aren't enough jobs, why people are so sick, what are the challenges for small business development, just any kind of business development, sustainable business development in the black community. What do those variables look like, and what were some of the tools that we as a people have access to now that can begin to have a positive impact on those outcomes? And that's what the Power Center is about. The Power Center, as we conceived it, is an institution, a standalone institution, so to speak, that provides particular tools for business development. One of the problems that we recognize, and there's data to substantiate this, is that small businesses oftentimes don't have the capital to invest in marketing or market research for them to understand the market within which they operate and what are the strengths, the weaknesses, the opportunities of that marketplace for the business. So from a strategic standpoint, marketing and marketing research is critical for starting and growing a healthy, sustainable business. Then there is the other challenge, the major challenge, especially for businesses, is the lack of adequate capital investment and financing for everything that we're doing. I was listening to your interview earlier with the master education teacher, And he talked about this program, this innovative program that he's developed through his research and his experience that would enable him to contribute positively to shifting the outcome of our children. He can help with their learning mechanism. What was his challenge? Capital.
Right.
That is our challenge. That is one of the major challenges in the Black community. So the Power Center would create an area whereby all that department does is go after public and private, local, national, and international capital investment. And what does that look like? Well, the International Center for Economic Research and Development, which would be housed in the Power Center, it's an arm of the Power Center that would be focused on research. It would be focused on research and development in different areas along the entire value chain of any business, whether it's a service business or you're producing something. What are some of the things, the key tools that any business owner, entrepreneur would require in order to ensure a larger level of success?
Right.
Well, marketing, understanding your market area, understanding product and product development, understanding the whole business development life cycle. What does that look like? When do you need money? What do you need to spend the money on? And what do you need to have in place in order to be able to get that capital? Well, African Americans face a challenge along that entire chain. The banks don't loan money to us. Our credit ratings, because of poverty, and because of the lack of appropriate financial education and literacy in our community, we really don't have a good handle on the value, the worth, and of money, and how we can leverage what we have, not necessarily just in cash, but in skills, in resources. Cecile, you and I, when we were working on this project, I mean, we're putting a lot together, and it's just us. And we don't have any big investment and backers for a lot of the solutions that we have for the challenges in the Black community. We came up with this because we saw this as the Power Center as a tool for small business development, for organizational development, for capacity building, et cetera, et cetera.
Right. So we have here where we talked about community assessment, policy analysis and development, research and development, economic development strategy, applied business technology and innovation, business capital development, business quality assurance and oversight, ethics, business communication tools, organizational development, technology, manage and create systems. And some people will say, well, don't the SBA do that? Well, if the SBA was really doing that for us, would we be here asking about this right now? So what we need in our community, I say that we're in something I learned when I came to Chicago. We have a level that's below zero, right? Below zero, it means that even though you have great ideas, etc., if you don't have that to get you to the point where the ideas can get to the market,
absolutely,
have access to the people who can do it, etc., it just doesn't go anywhere. And so hence we have lots of great ideas and not being able to move on them, right? The concept of the Power Center, power, P, plan, strategy, and framework for economic development ecosystem. O, orchestrate and guide small business development process. W, work towards building the infrastructure required for successful business development. E, empower community members to engage in small business development by providing necessary resources to build success. R, review and evaluate processes, procedures, and outcomes based on establishing best practices and quality assurance. That is something that we don't do very well. We don't do customer service as well as we should, and sometimes we don't take too kindly to people giving us some feedback. Well, if the feedback is negative, it means it's something you need to address, right? So we felt that there was a need for one place where you could come in, and you could come in with from your idea, all the way from the concept all the way to implementation, and we would help you. What we found in our community was about that marketing, right? They don't have many advertising dollars. Many times they don't have money for R&D.
But they don't always need it, and that's what they don't know. What this would do would be, it would provide the skills necessary at an affordable cost for small business, young entrepreneurs, and people who are trying to get something going. For instance, when a lot of us say we want to start a small business, but we have no idea where to begin to formulate, to move that from just an idea in our head to a full-blown plan into implementation and then to assessment. We really don't have those tools. We lack those tools on many levels. And so this is part of what the center would do, is it would be focused on providing those necessary tools for existing businesses and those entrepreneurs who would like to go into business. So the ICER, the International Center for Economic Research and Development, can focus on marketing research. It can focus on product research. It can do environmental analysis in terms of business. It can look at you, your competitors, your entire marketplace, what it is you're trying to accomplish,
Right.
and find the avenues how you can grow your business. So that's why this is so important. It's going to have a full service marketing business. We're going to have full-time grant writers, because one of the other things that we have as small businesses or as community members is that there are monies that are available, but we either we lack the skill sets, or we have no idea how to go about starting with that. We need to provide that kind of service.
And we're looking at this, folks, from a cooperative economic base, right? We don't have any rich grandparents and leaving no trust funds. We have right now the largest transfer of money that's going on from one generation to the next, but not for the black people, right? Based on things that have happened and how much money was lost during the crisis that we just came out of. So we need to begin to become more cooperative in our approach. And so the Power Center is a cooperative response. We know that brothers and sisters are good. Like I say, like a farmer. A farmer knows how to plant the crops and grow them and reap them and all that.
Yeah.
Now we want him to do the distribution. Now we want him to go out and do the marketing. No, we need to have other people who can help him to do that, right? So he can focus on what he is good at. And so now the community comes together as a whole, right? Utilizing the different talents of the different people in order to get the outcome that's going to be shared by all of us. It does take that village to raise the child.
Can I say something? This may sound a little counterintuitive. The concept of people say, well, because people say to me all the time, well, you know, that's a grandiose idea and it would never happen because black people don't know how to work together. And my response to that is that you won't know until you try.
Right.
And it doesn't necessarily take every person in the community. It takes a few committed people who have vision and who are willing to take on the responsibility of being part of the solution. All of our challenges in our community, for the savvy, spiritually grounded person, when they look at all the challenges, those are business opportunities.
Exactly.
Healthcare in our community, we as a group, are from a cultural perspective, we have historical healing knowledge that has not been used or applied in a holistic approach to healthcare for the black community, especially here in the United States.
Right.
Well, that knowledge exists. What are we doing about it?
Right.
You know, that's an opportunity for a business, but again, it takes capital investment. So we are committed to going after that capital by public-private partnerships, writing grants, and creating our own investment vehicle so that we can raise the capital we need for these programs.
Right. So how long does the dollar circulate in the black community, folks? A study done by the Black Youth Project says that the dollar spends 6 hours in the black community, it spends 1 month in the Asian community, it spends 20 days in the Jewish community, it spends 17 days in the white community, right? Black people spend $1.1 trillion and 2 cents of every dollar is spent on a black business. Some of us may bemoan that, and I use this data to startle you, but I also use it to tell you that we have a 98 cents opportunity. Right?
That is correct.
Because at 98 cents of that dollar that we're not getting, we can get back, right? And when you look at the gap, the racial gap, when it comes to wealth, you see that it directly contributes to that. In the United States, the people who make the most money on weekly earnings are Asian. Well, then it comes over to how long they spend their money. They take the money every 6 hours to their community, and then they make sure they employ their children. And all the data, when it comes to health, when it comes to education, when it comes to income, they are the top in the United States, okay? So you're talking about an immigrant community that came in, understood the concept that economics must be built first before you go on to other things, right? And are building a legacy for their own children. We don't have a problem with the money spending 30 days in the Asian community, folks. I don't have a problem with spending 20 days in the Jewish or 17 days in the white community. I do have a problem with it spending 6 hours in my community, because we have failed to create an opportunity, right, and address the needs that we have. Obviously, we're buying clothes, we're buying food, we got shelter, right? So why the money leaving? Why are we not investing in that? So let's talk about this a little bit more. in the power center, we have four phases,
Yes.
right? Phase 1, which is the feasibility study, which means that we'll be looking at all the 4 stages, and that would be the first year, right? Phase 2, we want to create centralized economic resource center, so that between year 2 and 3. Phase 3, we want to invest in a pilot holistic healthcare delivery, and that would be in year 2 to 3. And phase 4, we want to invest in a pilot early childhood education, and that would be year 2 to 3. So we're not trying to do all of this at the same time. We have done a tremendous amount of research, which means that in our first phase, we actually will be able to pull together a whole lot more than other people who are theorizing, because while we out there, we're still doing the work, right?
And that's, I think that's critical that you've mentioned that, is that the difference with this is not just that. We will collect, analyze, utilize, leverage the information that we get to build an economic ecosystem in our community, but we're building an institution that allows that considers all the challenges and the opportunities along the entire process and be involved on the ground. So it's not just ideas and theory, it's also application.
Right.
And that's the key. That's the difference.
Okay, and we're applying it right now. So let's talk about phase 2, right, which is the business of health. Because it is a business.
Yes,
Every time I
is.
look in my community, I see a kidney diabetes center
Dialysis,
pop up, right?
yeah.
Which is a reflection that somebody's making money because they're not owned by us, and that our health is actually deteriorating, which the data does say that. We have lost 2.3 years for black men in life expectancy and 3 years for black women. We have black children, five white children per 1,000 suffer from infant mortality, 14 black children do. But we live in the same America, right? And in the city of Chicago, 1 white woman died, 27 black women died giving birth, which is the most natural of things. So when people say race is not an issue, race is an issue because we see disparity not only in economics, we see it in health, we see it in education, right? So let's talk about health. Because again, what we see as we lay the case as a real challenge, we also see the flip side, which is a great opportunity. We see more black people being involved in education, in health, right? And becoming the people who serve our community to meet those needs. So talk about that.
Absolutely. And because the African American community is one of the sickest communities in terms of chronic diseases and preventable diseases, because we are the sickest, we suffer the most under the current system and the position that we play in the system. We are not, and to my knowledge, have not necessarily been since probably the 50s when we had our own clinics and we were forced to have our own hospitals. Right now, we don't provide any of that service for our community. That service is provided from without. So what am I saying? What I'm saying is, if we want to have a positive impact on proper outcomes for our community from a health and wellness standpoint, then it's imperative that we are engaged in the entire process. Okay, because right now the way the healthcare system is set up, contrary to popular belief, is that the healthcare system, the paradigm, the ethos of the healthcare system is to manage disease, not cure disease.
Right.
And so what does that mean? That means a continuum of big pharma's expansion, because everyone is living on drugs to manage their illnesses. We as African Americans who have historic traditional healing knowledge and technique should be considering the opportunities in our own healthcare marketplace to provide a holistic health healing model that can provide for the needs of the healthcare needs of the community and take a proactive approach. That is entirely possible, but it takes vision, and it takes a dedication to not only improving the health of the community, but to create viable economic engine through that process.
Okay. As we run out of time, I want to talk a little bit about phase 4, right? So
Yes.
you've addressed why we need the health part. So we've talked about economics, we've talked about health. We're going to go now to education, right? Advance Illinois stated the seeds of student success are planted in early childhood, and the work to make sure students achieve their fullest potential continues throughout their schooling. If we lose students early, we risk losing them entirely. 4-year-olds who live below the poverty level are already 14 months behind their classmates when they enter kindergarten. I had another guest on the show, Mr. Ron Barker, some time back, come in and talk about exactly that, how there's a gap between 3 to 5, right? By age 9, the gap that began from birth to 5 continues. However, general knowledge and cognitive skills are not the only measure of how young children develop and learn. Critical parts of the equation include their curiosity, how it is fed, communication, how to express themselves verbally, emotionally, well-being, emotional well-being, overall health, and parents' perception and involvement in early childhood education. So our phase 4 of the centers that we're building includes what we call wisdom seekers, right?
The wisdom seeking program, yes.
Exactly. Talk a little bit about that.
So the wisdom seeking program seeks to address the disparity in terms of early childhood education for the Black community. We're speaking of, and our conviction is that we need to get access to these children from the time they're at least 2 years old. We have to start at least at 2, because the cognitive development of the child from age 2 to 7 is humongous. This is when they collect the most information about their environment and who they are and their place in that particular ecosphere. It is critical, in order for us to reverse the trajectory of the outcomes of our educating our community. We need to be able to get a hold of these babies at 2 and provide a holistic learning environment for them that triggers and stimulates their discovery and their curiosity about their environment. That should be the teaching mechanism, and I believe there are those like the brother you just interviewed and you just discussed, who have these answers. Now, what the Power Center would do would be to create an environment sort of like a laboratory where we can test these new solutions and these ideas for the community. And that should be the approach. There's no one size fits all, but there's enough of us in the community with ideas and perspectives that can lend to the positive evolution of our communities.
Okay. So the Family Engagement Early Childhood Education Program focuses on parenting education,
Yes.
early childhood cognitive development, as well as parent and child interactive learning, because we don't want to just educate the children.
Absolutely
and we've not done
imperative.
anything to help the parents who might be stimulated themselves to really go get an education themselves, but also be able to reinforce what was taught with the child.
And that's really, Cecile, I just need to touch on this. That's really the missing link in the entire, let's revamp the education system. First of all, the current system that we have is a legacy system that was built on the industrial age. We've moved into a whole different sphere of economic enginery and economic development. And so that old model does not necessarily apply. Now, am I saying we need to scrap the whole thing? Absolutely not. There are positives in that system that we can utilize. However, from our perspective, it is our responsibility as well to come up with the ideas and the solutions and kind of fill in the gap, so to speak, in order to facilitate the growth and the development of our children. Parents are the missing link, because it doesn't matter if a child is in school 10 hours a day. When that child goes home, whatever that child was learning, if it is not reinforced on the family perspective at home, then there's an issue. And so the parents, we definitely need to engage the parents. In fact, I would argue that we need to engage the parents so that they can learn how their 2-year-old learn, and they can facilitate the development of that 2-year-old, which would help the school system.
So Paula, as we run out of time on a very interesting topic, how much money do you need?
I need $5 million for the feasibility study for the Power Center. And that would operate the Power Center for 1 year, where we are going to pull in all the subject matter experts and professionals in each particular category. And it runs the entire gamut. It's the psychology, the social, the political, the education, the economics. We need those subject matter experts at the table, lending their human resource to the development of the community. We want to create the environment where they can do that.
If you want to get in touch with us, you know how to get us. Again, my name is Cecile Johnson, CEO of African Development Plan. I want to thank my guest, my co-founder, Paula Green, for coming in today, for helping to share these ideas with you, right? Community, we need your help. We need to move this from thoughts, concepts, to implementation. And it's not very expensive, but we need help with people who can help us to bring in fundraising to bring this money in. I want to thank GlobalCityUnity Communities Outreach for giving us this opportunity to speak to the global Black community about these issues. As you know, we've been doing Connect the Dots, and we've been telling you about the data, telling you about what solutions can be, and now we're showing you how we can actually make it happen. But we will need your support. You can reach me at African Development Plan at gmail.com, or you can look at my website, African Development Plan, right? You can reach Paula. Give us your number.
I can be reached at pgreen@theallpeoplefoundation.org. P Green, Green, at PeopleFoundation.org. I know it's a paragraph, but I can be reached there. We're currently overhauling our website right now.
Okay.
You can still go to the site, but the site is being revamped completely. So, but I can be reached there.
Okay, folks, so you've heard about the Power Center, and we need it so we can, this is going to be a duplicatable project. So think about it, get in touch with us. You can reach Paula, you can reach myself, but let us know how you can help, okay? And thank you again for tuning in as we talk about solutions that are going to impact the global Black community. Peace.